Hello and welcome to day one of the Tell Your Story Blueprint, your special download. I'm Anthea and I'm going to be running you through this handheld journal, which is a gift back to humanity. All I ask that you do is pause throughout and reflect your thoughts and feelings. To suffer in silent desperation is not your purpose. This is your chance to make a difference by raising your inner voice for you, for your family and friends. You have the choice to break your silence. Will you take my hand? My intention is just to share with you exactly how this blueprint works, and this is how it works. So as you know, we're on day one, and I'm starting with status. And as I just intuitively thought, right, it's logical to start with 10 reasons for writing your story, or you're living from your head or your heart, and to go on. That's how the chapters are written. So when you do join us, that's how these chapters will fit in. But I realised that I like to do things differently. And this process is very much about nurturing individual people, nurturing each of us to reach our full potential by starting off by sharing our story. And so when I decided that the first 5 chapters, the first 5 sections would be a gift to each person that comes through this process, and that's how we started off, then I realised that this process is about working backwards. It's about going internally into our stories. And so this is emerging from 5 chapters into the storytelling, coming right back up to the beginning. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works. But as I've started to read through this 5th chapter now, just looking at it as I've been preparing these slides, I realised why I was intuitively prompted to start off this process that way. Because in a way, this was the question that I asked myself, and I feel quite emotional thinking about it, purely because I've wanted to get this message out to the world for such a long time, and you'll hear that in the story that I reflected. And so just intuitively going with how I feel in every moment, this is just another reflection of living intuitively. So the question that I asked was, is there another way? And I would ask myself that all the time, so often, because I couldn't believe that I was in a world where it didn't feel quite right. There was major imbalance. I didn't realise I was part of helping to create that imbalance. But just by questioning is part of the solution. So status is where I've started. Labels of status give us a sense of well-being, like we've arrived. But arrived where exactly? We all want the best, and many of us have translated this to mean competing against each other. We compete because that is what our education system has taught us. However, are we taught how to adapt to 10 career changes in our lifetime? Are we born competitive, fighting amongst ourselves for the best over others, or is there another way? And I just now want to share with you what I wrote when I was writing this book that really highlights the reason why I had to do what I'm doing and sat in front of this camera now and sharing this with you is a real reflection of that. So I'm just going to stop the share so that you can see me reading, because this is what we do. We read just like, I mean, I've got my book so I can read directly from my book, but most of us read from the screen because we type and read. So here is my story on status. So as a minority in my hometown, labels were very relevant to my experiences. And as such, the vision to create Including You came to me in 1996 to create an organisation which I'd been seeking for a long time, certainly for my working career, caring for others with compassion, kindness and love. Inspired by an elder from the Women's Centre, I felt that no woman should feel rejected in the same way I felt when she looked at me in that oh so familiar way. This was the second time that such a profound experience had occurred. The main first one was back in 1991, while studying social work. During a group activity, I was amazed that life really was or is not fair in terms of everyone having an equal chance. The person who is white, middle class, with affluent parents was more likely to be well ahead of the woman, black and disabled, just because the basic structures in life would set them poles apart and create barriers of inequality and unfairness. Upon discovering this, I was appalled to believe that depending on the gender and cultural background, ability to access services and status of your parents, these attributes would make a difference in terms of our perceived pursuit of happiness. Highlighting this in my life enabled me to think about what was the purpose of pursuing external happiness if it meant constantly competing with the majority of people. What was evident was the constant discontentment, the unhappiness, the increased demands, etc. Quickly, my observations led me back to being 4 years old. Actually, 4 years, 11 months, September 1971. My first day at Larches County Primary School. I realised I didn't know anyone in Miss Gittins' class, so I walked in, pulled out a chair from under the table, turned it to face the rest of the children who were keenly playing and struggling to fit into the Wendy house. I placed the chair gently down, sat on the chair, and waited. I quickly learned that to compete in this environment was not going to win me any friends. As a child growing up indifferent to what my perception was, from as early as 8, I was given a profound vision of speaking to thousands of people in a desert. People from miles around were arriving on foot to hear me speak. I recall through my experience that my waking world depicted nothing like what I was witnessing and experiencing in my dreamlike state or state of subconsciousness. In that moment of vision, a natural born leader stepped in and up. To recognise in that moment took a while to comprehend and embrace. And as I'm sat in front of the computer at this moment in time, recording this, knowing that it's going out to thousands of people, is amazing. To think how long has it been since wanting to share my story, and here I am now sharing my story on status to millions of people. So you never know in which way it's going to arrive is the question, is the statement really. So that was my chapter on status. And I'm hoping that some of those words resonated with you, because the next page that we go to, that's my story, is your story. So I encourage you to begin writing. I just want to go back on that. Pause for thought, reflect and write your story. So from what I've said today, feel free to do that and email it over to me. I'm happy to read it, and it's great connecting with different people. There is another way, and the way is to begin by telling your story. I encourage you to do that. I will be encouraging you at the end to enroll with us if you haven't already. But thank you for just sharing this space with me, in listening to my story. And I hope that it resonates with you to the point where you want to, write yours. So do write your story, and I shall see you tomorrow. Which 4, are you familiar with work hard and you will achieve? Thank you for sharing this space with me. I do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.